Please take your seats quickly, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Welcome to New York and the 2023 U.S. Open, where spectacular awaits. Hallowed grounds that have inspired generations of tennis fans everywhere, who have been witness to incredible matches from the greatest legends of the game. The home of the epic night matches, with that New York-infused energy from the crowd that is unrivaled by any other venue, where memories are waiting to be created in every corner. It's an electricity you don't just see or hear, it's one you feel. This is the U.S. Open, and this is Courtside, the official podcast for the U.S. Open. And here's your host, Marc Stern.
Hello and welcome to Courtside. Thank you so much for tuning in as we put day 5 to bed, and it was a great day of tennis. Great day for the American men, not so much for the American women, and we got treated to 2 outstanding matches at the end of the night with one major scare and one big upset. So, a lot to get to today, and I haven't even mentioned our guests. I'll chat with play-by-play man Mike Cation, and then I want to play back something very cool for you. The one and only Billie Jean King stopped by our U.S. Open radio studios last night to chat with Ravi Uba and her longtime friend Zina Garrison. And it was, as you might imagine, wonderful. So I'll play that back for you in a little while. And before you ask, no, I wasn't there. I was up in my studio in Ash Stadium and missed my chance to meet Billie. But hey, Billie, if you're listening, you're welcome to come on this podcast anytime you like. Come on, it was worth a shot, right? So, with all that ahead of us, let's get to those Day 5 highlights, and we'll start with Tommy Paul, who is having such an incredible year. And today was something special for him as he made his debut at Arthur Ashe Stadium, playing Alejandro Davidovich Fokina. And if Paul was nervous about playing on this court for the first time, he didn't show it at all.
Second serve here to set point for Paul. Forehand right up the middle, off the line by Tommy Paul. Davidovich Fokina comes up, Tommy tries to pass, and lofts it in, cross court! Emphatic fist bump there, wave of the Yonitz racket for Tommy Paul. Takes that opening set 6-1 over Davidovich Fokina.
And he didn't let up in the second set either.
Davidovich Fokina with a backhand slice. It goes long from him to the left of Tommy Paul, and Paul gets the break. He's up 3-love over Davidovich Fokina in the second.
Paul would go on to win that set 6-love to take a commanding lead in the match. Davidovich Fokina bounced back to win the third set 6-3, but Paul got back on track to book his first ever trip to the 4th round here.
Match point for Tommy Paul and a chance for the 4th round of the U.S. Open for the first time in his career, and he's got it with an ace. His 16th of the match, and he is into the last 16 at the U.S. Open.
And afterwards, he talked about what's been the difference this year that has led to such success.
Well, I've won a few matches here now, so that always helps. I don't know, I feel like I'm serving a lot better, coming to the net, playing full court tennis, and obviously I feel like there's a lot better energy around the grounds this year. Everyone's pretty excited about American tennis, so that always helps. So I really appreciate you guys coming out and supporting me. The other day was unreal. Today was so much fun, so thank you guys.
His opponent in the 4th round would be the winner of the Ben Shelton-Aslan Karatsev match. And in that match, Shelton displayed the big talent that has caused so much buzz about him and his future.
Jeez Louise.
There was heat off his fingers there. He thumped that ace right down the center. And Ben Shelton brings this packed grandstand to its feet. 147.
Oh my goodness.
By far the fastest serve we've seen in this U.S. Open. Dazzling stuff from the American Ben Shelton.
147? Are you kidding me? Man. Shelton did indeed go on to win that set and take the 2-1 lead. And when Karatsev's serve faltered in the 4th set, Shelton found himself somewhere he'd never been to before.
And this has been the problem for Aslan Karatsev. 5 double faults in this 4th set, 14 for the match. He cannot do it here. The serve, it's long, it's a double fault. It is Ben Shelton into the 4th round of the U.S. Open.
So Shelton will face fellow American Tommy Paul in the 4th round on Sunday. Would Frances Tiafoe join them in the 4th round? Well, Adrian Mannarino tried to put a damper on those plans by taking the early lead over Tiafoe in their match on Armstrong.
It is a set point for Adrian Mannarino at 5-4 in the first. Another slice out wide. Tiafoe ranges almost into the photographer's pit to attempt the return, but he cannot get there. It's in the middle of the net, and Mannarino takes the opening set 6-4.
But Tiafoe came back strong, winning the next 2 sets, and then the 4th set went to a tiebreaker. But once again, Tiafoe rose to the moment.
Another Mannarino forehand to a Tiafoe backhand cross court. They trade. Tiafoe runs around, big forehand inside out, pushes Mannarino back, forehand inside in. Tiafoe wins it! He screams, "Let's go," to the crowd. Tiafoe wins in 4 sets over Adrian Mannarino.
After the match, he was asked that while this summer has been a little disappointing for him, why is it that playing at the U.S. Open always seems to bring out his best?
Yeah, the summer's irrelevant. It's all about this tournament, honestly. I've always watched this tournament as a kid. I've always wanted to play out here. I always wanted to compete on the biggest stages, and obviously here's our biggest stadium. The fans are unbelievable. You guys are crazy. It makes it a lot of fun to play. And yeah, there's so much history here. Obviously, Arthur Ashe Stadium, what a legend. And yeah, I just want my name in the same sentence as his. So I think that's why I play some of my best tennis here.
In the last 2 matches from the day session, Dominic Stricker outlasted Benjamin Bonzi to advance, and Rinky Hijikata got by Zhang Zhizhen in 4 sets. We'll get back to the men's night session matches in a few minutes, but let's turn our attention now to the women's draw. And as I mentioned, it was not a great day for the American women. Bernarda Pera lost her match with Elena Ostapenko, but in the early going at least, it looked like Taylor Townsend was going to have a good day against Karolina Muchova.
Taylor opposite stage backhand missing from Muchova on the slice up the line, and a big yell from Townsend. She gets the first break in this 3rd round match and is up consequently 3-1 on the 10-seed Muchova.
But Muchova steadied herself and found a way to take that first set. And Muchova kept it up in the 2nd round, and pretty soon she was booking her trip to the next round.
On match point number 3, she rocks back a good toss into the forehand Townsend, and she scuffs it in the air and wide. Karolina Muchova was marvelous in the 2nd set. She took the opening set tiebreak 7-0. She wins it 6-3 in the 2nd, and she's on to the round of 16 for the 2nd time in her career at the U.S. Open.
That left one more American in the day session, Jen Brady, who took on Caroline Wozniacki, who has been one of the best stories of this tournament, winning her first 2 matches in her comeback after a 3.5-year retirement and having 2 kids. But it would be Brady who got out ahead first.
Backhand from Brady. Wozniacki, forehand. Brady, cross-court, forehand, deuce side. Forehand up the line. Wozniacki, Brady's there. Sliding backhand slice. Forehand long. Wozniacki. The racket survives, but the set does not for Caroline Wozniacki.
But Wozniacki refused to go away and took the 2nd set 6-3, and then in the 3rd, she really turned it on.
Triple match point, the serve, it's wide. Brady's backhands into the net, and Caroline Wozniacki, 15 years after she got to the final of the U.S. Open, is into the 4th round of the U.S. Open.
And afterwards, she talked about how she's feeling about not only playing again, but playing so well.
Well, I think as a competitor, as an athlete, you always want to win. You go out there and you believe in yourself. But, you know, to actually be here playing in Arthur Ashe Stadium in front of all you amazing people here, and thank you for supporting me today. I mean, that's a dream come true. I said this in my last match, but, you know, I didn't think I was going to be here again. You know, when I retired 3 years ago and when I had my 2 kids, I thought I would only be watching from the outside, but to be able to play here, and now I've gotten 2 matches in here, I mean, what an honor this is.
So 0-for-3 in the early going for the U.S. women. Could Coco Gauff beat Elisa Mertens to finally get a win for the U.S. women today? Well, we're going to get to that match in just a little bit, but let's recap the rest of the action from the women in the day. The number 1 seed, Iga Swiatek, continued her scorching hot play with a 6-love, 6-1 win over her good friend, Kaya Juvan. And Zhenyu Wang topped Anna Karolina Schmidlova in 3 sets. Back to the men. Taylor Fritz was looking to make it a perfect 4-0 for the American men as he took on Jakub Mensik, and Fritz came out of the gate strong.
Fritz steers us the backhand down the line, forced into a defensive position on the volley, blocks another volley, blocks a 3rd volley, past Mensik, Mensik scrambles it, Fritz with the volley, Mensik with the pickup, Fritz with the volley deep, Mensik with the backhand, it's a volley winner from Taylor Fritz. Unbelievable way to bring up double set point.
He'd go on to win that set, and he never really took his foot off the gas pedal.
Double match point, first serve netted by Fritz, was going for another big one down the tee. Surely he goes big on this second serve to end with a flourish. And he does go big into the body. Mensik nets, and Taylor Fritz is safely through into round 4.
So, Fritz joins Tiafoe, Shelton, and Paul in the 4th round, and tomorrow, Michael Mmoh will look to be the 5th American in the 4th round. Back to the women in that Coco Gauff-Elisa Mertens match. Gauff trying to avoid the fate that the other 3 Americans met in their 3rd round matches. And as things started out, it didn't look good.
Mertens eyeing up a golden opportunity. Gauff serves wide to the forehand, scooped up to the feet by Mertens. It's long from Gauff. The cry is from Elisa Mertens. The former doubles world number 1, the number 32 seed, is 1 set to the good. And for the 2nd time this week, Coco Gauff has dropped the opening set of a night session match.
But Gauff dug deep and found her opening early in the 2nd set.
Mertens with the backhand. This rally is leveled out central. Mertens with the cross court. Gauff off the net, finds the court. Mertens forehand line, open space. Volley forced error. Coco Gauff twirls and pumps her fist. She has broken through.
That left it for a winner-take-all in the 3rd set, and Gauff kicked it into high gear and never let Mertens into that set, winning it 6-love.
Mertens once again on the brink, but not like she's been previously. This is a monumental mountain to climb. Gauff with the forehand back behind. Backhand approach from Mertens on top of the court, into the net. A delighted smile for Coco Gauff, who sees herself into round 4.
So Coco kept the Americans from getting swept today. Her next match will be a tough one, as she'll face Caroline Wozniacki. So break out the popcorn for that one. In the other late matches of the day, Borna Gojo took down Jiri Vesely in straight sets as he makes his deepest run ever at a major. And it took 3 sets, but Belinda Bencic, the 15th seed, got the win over Lin Zhu to advance. And the fans who were still around for the last 2 matches of the day got treated to some amazing tennis. On Armstrong, the 4th seed Elena Rybakina took on Sorano Kirstaya, and it was Kirstaya who took the 1st set. But Rybakina fought back, took the 2nd set to a tiebreaker where she leveled the match.
A big forehand cross, winner by Rybakina. And the number 4 seed forces a 3rd set on a Friday night on Armstrong.
But Kirstaya got an early break in the 3rd to take the lead, and while things got a little hairy at the end of the match for her, she held on to make it to the 4th round.
Second serve, Rybakina. Long, a double fault will end what was otherwise an absolutely terrific match inside Armstrong on a Friday night. We have our biggest upset of the tournament. Kirstaya over Rybakina.
And on Ash, Novak Djokovic squared off against fellow Serb Laszlo Djere. And for those who thought this would be a piece of cake for Djokovic, they were sadly mistaken, as Djere played lights out and stunned the crowd and the 3-time Open champ by taking the 1st set.
Serve for Djere with this set point is good. Djokovic block return. Djere steps in, drop shot. Djokovic there, rolls the forehand up the line. Volley, Djere. Djokovic drop shot. Djere goes backhand cross. It's good. Laszlo Djere.
Wow.
Takes set number 1 from Novak Djokovic, the 3-time champion, 6-4.
But surely Novak would steady himself in the 2nd and Djere would come back to earth, right? Well, I guess nobody told Djere that, as he kept it going in the 2nd set to take a commanding lead.
Set point number 1, Djere, serve, good. Djokovic forehand up the line, misses long, and Laszlo Djere is 1 set away from the biggest win of his career.
That left Djokovic to try and come back from a 2-set-to-love deficit, something he'd done only 7 times before in his career, although one of them was at the U.S. Open in a semifinal against some guy named Roger Federer. So with his back against the wall, Djokovic came out strong in the 3rd set, and Djere finally started to falter. So Djokovic cruised to win the set 6-1. But there was still a lot of work to be done if Djokovic wanted to avoid his earliest exit from the U.S. Open since 2005, the first year he played in the tournament. The 2 traded breaks to open the 4th, but Djokovic fought back from love 40 to break once again, take the lead, and that would be all he needed.
Service good. Djokovic backhand to a Djere, backhand through the middle. Djokovic rolls the forehand. Djere inside out forehand. Djokovic tracks that down. Djere backhand slices into the net. Novak Djokovic has forced the decider 2 breadsticks over the last 2 hours, and a 5th set is upcoming.
And while things got a little bit closer in that 5th set, Djokovic was able to pull away, avoid the upset, and book his trip to the 4th round.
Zverev forehand through the middle. Djokovic back into a Zverev backhand cross. Djokovic back into a Zverev backhand cross. Djokovic backhand cross. Zverev tracks it down. Djokovic backhand through the middle. Zverev goes backhand up the line, and he missed it wide. Well, he's pushed to the brink, but never in doubt. Novak Djokovic with his 8th career win from 2 sets to love down over his countrymate, Laslo Djere.
What a day of tennis. And tomorrow, we're going to round out the rest of the field for the 4th round, and it's going to be a beautiful day. So you should make your plans to come on out to the Billie Jean King National Tennis Center. And speaking of Billie, as I mentioned before, she stopped by the U.S. Open radio studio yesterday to join Ravi Uba and Zina Garrison. And that conversation is on the way, but first, Gil Gross has this for us.
Welcome to this moment in U.S. Open history. Stefan Edberg's quest to defend his U.S. Open title in 1992 started out easily enough, but by the time he was done, it was one for the record books. Edberg breezed through the first 3 rounds, winning each match without dropping a set. But his match in the 4th round with the 15th seeded Richard Krajicek went to 5 sets, and it would be the first of 3 consecutive 5-setters that Edberg would have to play. But Edberg was able to finish off Krajicek, rallying from being a breakdown in the 5th to advance. Up next was the always dangerous Ivan Lendl, and the weather didn't help, stretching the match over 2 days, and once again, Edberg had to rally from being down in the 5th, but he put away Lendl 7-3 in the final tiebreaker. The bad weather messed with the playing schedule, which meant that now Edberg would be playing for the 3rd consecutive day when he faced the 4th-seeded Michael Chang in the semifinals. This was the 4th of 5 eventual meetings in a Grand Slam between Chang and Edberg. Chang won the first one in 1989 with his stunning victory at Roland Garros. Edberg had won the next 2 heading into this match, and this was one for the ages. It would be the longest match ever played at the U.S. Open, lasting 5 hours and 26 minutes, just 11 minutes more than the barn burner between Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner here last year. Chang won the opener in a tiebreak, then Edberg took the 2nd set 7-5, and he won the 3rd set in another tiebreak. And with the score tied at 5 games apiece in the 4th set, Chang went on a run, winning the next 5 games to win the set and take a commanding 3-love lead in the 5th. But like he'd done in 2 previous matches, Edberg rallied, fighting off 2 break points that would have made it 4-love, and trailing 2-4, Edberg won 12 of the next 13 points. At 5-4 serving for the match, he had to work through 1 more break chance for Chang, but Edberg held on to move on to the finals. And for all his troubles, Edberg would have to face Pete Sampras, and he'd be playing his 4th consecutive day. But this one went a little easier for Edberg, as he was able to finish off Sampras in 4 sets, although he had to come back to do it after Sampras won the first. All told, Edberg played 18 hours and 203 games in those last 4 matches, and his total time on court for the tournament was also a record at 22 hours and 22 minutes. It would be the last of Edberg's 6 Grand Slam titles, and in fact, he would only make 1 more final at a Slam before retiring in 1996. But the road to victory, including that epic match with Chang, will always stand out as one of the greatest runs ever at the U.S. Open. With this moment in U.S. Open history, I'm Gil Gross.
Thanks, Gil. That was an incredible run for Edberg, one of the most graceful players you'll ever see. Man, could he play at the net. You know who else is pretty good at the net? And at pretty much everything else in life? Yeah, that's right, Billie Jean King. And she's next on Courtside.
Spin is in. The new Wilson Shift racket is made to create mind-bending spin for more shots in, more forehands in, more backhands in, more everything in. So if you want more spin, check out the new Shift racket at the Wilson store, located outside of Louis Armstrong Stadium, or at wilson.com.
As a new proud partner of the U.S. Open, Maestro Dobel Tequila is bringing its smooth serves to the iconic tournament. Masterfully crafted, its Cristalino tequilas are unmatched and ready to be enjoyed courtside or at home. Celebrate with Maestro Dobel Tequila. Proximo, Jersey City, New Jersey.
As the official fan ticket marketplace of the U.S. Open, Ticketmaster has the widest selection of tickets available, so you can be there live for every match. When you buy on Ticketmaster, you can pick the seat you want, so you can make sure you have the best view of every pivotal moment of the match. Plus, all U.S. Open tickets from Ticketmaster are mobile, which makes getting in on match day a breeze. And if your plans change, Ticketmaster gives you a safe and easy way to sell your tickets. Whether you're buying or selling tickets on Ticketmaster, all tickets are verified, so you never have to worry. Head to Ticketmaster.com or download the Ticketmaster app to find your seat today.
This is Courtside, the U.S. Open podcast.
Welcome back. And, when Billie Jean King wants to stop by your studio, here's what you do. You say, yes, please. And then you sit back and soak in everything she has to say. And this is how it went.
Billie, welcome to our humble abode on U.S. Open Radio.
Bobby, thanks. This is actually beautiful here.
It's really nice, and it's new, Billie.
I've never seen this. It's new?
It's very new.
Well, see, I mean, I don't know. Have you two been working together forever or not?
We have, actually.
It
Yes.
seems like it for some reason. It felt that way in the air.
Nice colors we have here, Billie, and always great to have your company in what has
Thank
been
you.
an eventful week already. 50 years of equal pay at the U.S. Open, the first sporting event. 50 years since Battle of the Sexes. 50 years anniversary of the WTA. A lot to process, and I want to ask you, does it feel like 50 years?
No. Feels like 2 years or 4 years or 5 years. And then other times it doesn't. Other times it is 50 years. But because of all the generations that have played now, there's a few. I've been really fortunate to see so many different generations. And Zena is one of the ones I got to see coming up. So it was really fun. You had a great career.
Well, you can call me Z. You do anyway.
I
so
call her
don't
Z
feel-
if that's okay. Just so everyone knows, Robbie.
Well, Billie, I can tell you that Z and others on U.S. Open Radio have long talked about your legacy this week and also last year. It's obviously a great pleasure to have you here. And Zena has been telling some great stories, haven't you, Zena?
Oh, boy. You got me in trouble, right? No.
No, I have one story that I don't know if you remember. So I think we were coming back from a Legends match somewhere or an event that we had, and we both were in a taxi. And we had to come out here. And you and I were in the taxi together, and the taxi driver did not know where to go. And you were in the taxi, and you were so frustrated because we need to be somewhere on time. And then you were yelling, "Pressure is a privilege, pressure." And you were trying to calm yourself down. And we get out of the taxi, and you turn around, and you say, "And champions are just." And I lost it. And I lost you. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do now. It's so funny because I do say those two things to myself and to others all the time. And it really helps me every single day, actually. Because if I start to lose it, I go, "Come on, champions." Like you said, champions adjust. But, oh, my goodness.
Well, I have one thing, Billie, that I've always wanted to ask you, and I thought about it. I never asked.
And you've never asked me after all our phone calls and
I
spending
was
time
sitting here
together?
and thinking about that here we are in the Billie Jean King National Tennis Center with Arthur Ashe, Louis Armstrong, but you, Billie Jean King, it's your National Tennis Center. When that came about they told you it was going to be the national tennis. What did you think?
I was totally overwhelmed. I didn't believe what I was hearing. I'm like, no, this cannot be true. Especially being a woman, being a girl. I'm like, this isn't happening to me. I'm a girl. There's no way. But Franklin Johnson, who was the president of the USTA at that time, he said, no, and it's really wonderful because we're both from Southern California, which he's correct. So it was amazing. And ironically, the other Monday night, the 28th of August, it had been exactly 17 years, because it was 06 on August 28th that the naming happened. Can you believe that? Is on the same exact date. The March on Washington is the reason I know that. Because in 2006, when the naming happened, I knew that was the Washington day. We talked about it then. And so the other night I put it in the speech because it was exactly the same date. I didn't exactly get into that because I didn't have time to do that, but I did that. I was so thrilled it was the same day. It was the one, because I was 19 years old when I watched Martin Luther King deliver that speech. I have a dream. And oh my God, I was over the moon listening, and then I think Miriam Anderson might have been there, and then there's some other ones were there. So it meant a lot to me. And then to have the same day, can you believe that? 17 years apart? It was very meaningful. And I thought Althea Gibson had played her first match maybe on the 28th, but it was the 30th. I looked it up.
I know you're historically, you know
No,
all
but
the
Althea
history,
Gibson was my
whatever.
first shero. She's the first black person to ever win a major, man or woman. In 1956, she won the French, and then she won Wimbledon in 57, 58. Queen Elizabeth gave her the trophy. I mean, it's pretty awesome.
Billie, you were just mentioning at the age of 19 and what happened to you then. We know you as somebody who has been fighting for equality
right, for
your whole
everyone.
life, for human rights, right? Your whole life. I wonder, had you always had that in you, let's say going from adolescent to a teen, did you always feel like this is something you wanted to do, or did that develop?
Well, I can tell you, I picked up a tennis racket at 11. The second time was at the rec park. That's why I'm so big, and Zena is the same, on free access to parks and coaching, to courts. And I'll fast forward, because I'm 10, almost 11 when I started. Fast forward, I'm 12 years old now. And I was at the Los Angeles Tennis Club, which is the mecca of Southern California tennis, because I'm from Long Beach, California. And I was daydreaming one day, and I started thinking about tennis, and I realized everybody was playing with white balls, they all wore white clothes, and everybody who played was white. And I asked myself, where's everybody else? I'm going, where's everybody else? It's just white. That's not good. Because I always think of the world that everybody belongs, right? So I promised myself that day that I would fight for equality the rest of my life. And I knew that I was really lucky being in tennis, because tennis is played all over the world.
Yeah.
But I knew as a girl it was a disadvantage because I'm a second-class citizen, but my sisters of color and others, people living with disability, were worse off than me, but I'm still second-class compared to the guys. And you knew that in the classroom by the time you're, 7 years old, 5 years old. So I knew it would be harder, that people probably wouldn't listen to me because of my gender. But my dad was really instrumental, and every father, every boy in this world, just pay attention, because anyway, my dad was my first hero, but he also believed in me as much as my brother, my brother's younger, 5 years younger, and he played 12 years of professional baseball, Randy Moffett. He played most of his career with the San Francisco Giants. He was a relief pitcher. He had a good slider. And because my dad was so good to me, and most kids are lucky to have two parents.
Yeah.
At all. I don't think you grew up with two parents, did you? Or did you?
My dad died when I was younger.
Right.
Yeah.
There we go. So your mom raised you. And I don't know about you, Robbie. Did you have two?
Yes, I had two.
And that's, that's really lucky for me. And I knew I was lucky to have two parents. And I thought, that's another plus for me. That's like no excuses type of thing. You're like, okay, you've been lucky. Born in California, public parks, free access. Susan Williams asked me to play tennis in 5th grade, and I said, what's tennis?
Yeah.
So she's on my blessing list every night, every morning when I wake up. I have a blessing list. You're on it, too. Now Robbie's got to go.
Wow.
So anyway.
Robbie, you're going to be on it, too, now.
I'll take it.
I'm going to have to, because you've been really nice. So anyway, I just thank God I found that Susan asked me to play tennis. I mean, tennis is the best. I was playing softball, basketball. I love basketball. But you know what I realized? This is the second day I've ever played tennis. As a shortstop in softball, I probably touched the ball 6 times on the infield. I would bat every 9th time, right? I was leadoff batter because I was the youngest one on the team. But I could get on first usually, so put me up there. And I thought to myself, I can hit 100 balls in 5 minutes in tennis.
Over and over and over.
Oh, my God. I am so excited. This is for me. I said, this God, I remember thanking God that I was at Houghton Park. I remember exactly Clyde Walker was my first coach, and the public parks paid for it. And I love this guy, and I'm thinking, I am so lucky. And then at the end of the day, the second time I picked up a racket, my mom came to get me and go, Mommy, I found out what I'm going to do with my life. I want to be #1 tennis player in the world. She goes, "That's nice, dear, but you have homework." She always kept my brother and me grounded. Oh my God, I was so I'll never forget as long as I live, because we had a Dodge or some car that had fluid drive. You know, where you put your foot off the accelerator to go click and back down. I can remember the sounds, the smell. I can remember everything. And I'm so lucky to be in tennis. And tennis, do you know that they've just done research? Tennis is the healthiest sport on this planet.
Yeah, I saw that. And you know what else is very good for, and people don't know this, is that kids that have HDD and all of that, it's one of the number one that it keeps them very, very active.
Active and busy and focused,
and
right?
Focused. And I've actually literally had a couple kids that I worked with when I worked with the Washington Tennis and Education Foundation. You can give them a drill of keeping so many balls in, they would almost beat the person over and over because they get focused in that. But the minute you turn that off, then that's when the focus went away. Billy, I have another question that I wanted to ask you is, why do so many, well, it's not many, but you and Arthur Ashe broke so many barriers for humanity, for just human race. Like, what is it with tennis that we get such great people like you guys?
Oh, well, I think relationships are everything. I just got lucky that Susan, who and her father had just been transferred. So just think how every day I think about this, and I'm so thankful. But I think tennis being global is huge. I think it really makes a difference. I love team. I love doubles more than singles, and I love teams. But being able to play team and individually teaches you so many different skill sets. And our sport, there's no substitution when you play. Well, there's no substitution at all, doubles or singles, really.
Yeah.
So I think in some ways that's good. You can't say, I'm having a bad day. Come on over, get me out of here. Which I love to do sometimes.
But it wouldn't matter.
It wouldn't matter, right? You're going to lose the match. So I think it's taught us that. I think you have to keep going no matter what's going on. And I think because we're single elimination, if you can keep winning, you've got to be so resilient. I mean, you have to win 7 matches. People, they look at 128, they're like, oh, it's so many. But just when you're good, as a player, I remember Rod Laver telling me, Billy, it's 7 matches. Don't think it's a lot of matches. It's just 7. Of course, 7 in 2 weeks is a lot, actually. But it teaches you all these skills that if you know that you're learning them. Sometimes I feel like players don't even know it. They don't really grasp what they've been given. But if you do think about what you've been given and how many people have helped you along the way and really connect with those people and those thoughts. Clyde died when I was 17, but I talked to him every day.
Yeah.
And Zena and I have talked about it. And Zena was, I think you were the first person of color that was a coach, weren't you, for Fed Cup? I think you were.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to get everybody in this.
Well, thanks to you.
No, Benny Sims.
The assistant. Well, thanks to Benny Sims.
Benny
yes,
Sims.
You're absolutely right.
Benny Sims deserves it.
But I was the assistant for Fed Cup, and I learned so much under Billy. And I still think about one lesson. I think about this a lot. You taught me how each and every person on staff was very important to that player on the court, from the person that was giving the massages to the person that's stringing. And I remember when you first told me that, I'm like, what is Billy talking about now? But it always came together. And Robbie, I tease her all the time because I tell her she's the godmother of sports. I'm going to keep saying that name till people get it. Literally, she has touched so many lives and mentored so many different people that, we were at the Olympics in 2000. This guy came up and he was boo-hoo crying because he said his daughter had an opportunity to go to college on a sports scholarship. Remember that?
Title IX.
For Title IX. So, I mean, just amazing stories, being around. But she's mentored so much. So she will literally be the godmother of sports for the rest of our lives.
And I don't think it's a stretch to say, Billy, you've touched the lives of millions, obviously just by your actions. Those who've been lucky to meet you feel your warmth straight away. I want to go back to something Zena mentioned, recounting that story right away, and talking about that famous quote that pressure is a privilege that so many players now cite, including Coco Gauff. And I want to know how that came about.
You know what's happening? Because I think it's Stacey Allister, actually.
Oh, wow.
The director of tennis. I'm guessing. But as you go out to Arthur Ashe court, the court, it's got a huge plaque up there now. And it says pressures are privilege. And I know if I were still playing, I'd be touching that little baby for good luck when I go out on that court. And I don't know if any of the players are touching it or not, but I would. Every time I got on that court, I'd do that. And I've touched it just down there because I've been down there. But when I saw that, I go, oh, my God, they put it up there. Because it actually happened during Fed Cup. Lindsay Davenport, she was like, we're playing Spain
Lindsay
or
was just
Rochester.
here.
What?
She was just here.
She was?
Yeah.
So anyway, Lindsay didn't even remember. She was so rattled. She was like, you know how she would get. She was up and down. So anyway, she's 6'3", and she's looking at me. She goes, I got to play a Rancha. We lose to Spain. God, they beat us. Because they had a Rancha Sanchez Vicario, and they also had Conchita Martinez. So anyway, they were really great players, and they're great in doubles and everything. So she goes, and we're in Las Vegas. We're at Mandalay Bay, and she's looking at me. She's going, what should I do? What should I do? And I go, pressures of privilege and champions adjust. And she goes, oh, I love that. I love that. Okay. And then she did win because she was in a state. And when she gets in a state, sometimes it doesn't work. And she also beat her, I think it was Arancha in the 96 Olympics. And I made her stop before she went out there the night before. I said, can I talk to you the night before? I could tell she was a little happy being just in the finals. I'm thinking, oh, no. Mm-hmm. She's got to win it. And her dad, Wink, who played volleyball, had also been in the Olympics in '68. So she came from this Olympic culture. So I said, let's just sit down. I was really calm. I said, have you really thought about tomorrow or not? Well, kind of, yeah. I'm thinking, would you be happy with the silver? She says, I haven't thought about it. I said, well, I want you to think about it. Because I said, you're the best player in the tournament, and you can win this, and you got to take one ball at a time, but you can win it, and I want to see the gold. You come from an Olympic culture, your whole family. This is for you. You own it. You know, I'm giving her this pep talk. I don't know if she remembers anything. She doesn't.
I've heard her talk about the story, though, so she remembers.
She remembers that?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm impressed.
Yeah.
Well, Billie, she won gold that
Yeah, she did
day.
win gold. I was so happy for her. No, but her family was so happy because they come from that culture. You know, her mom was big in volleyball. So it's just great to see everything, but the happiness for everyone.
Well, Billie, you've brought happiness to, again, millions. That's no stretch to say. We thank you for your company on U.S. Open Radio. Time has flown by, and enjoy the rest of the Open.
Thank you. I'm so happy to see you. And anything for Z. So it was for Zina Garrison. Great player. And gives back all the time. So I really appreciate her friendship.
Honestly, has there ever been anyone like Billie? So gifted, so driven, so energetic, and with a moral compass that has always pointed true north. What a treat that was. But that's not all we have for you. Coming up next, Mike Cation will sit down with me and talk about this great day for the American men, and he'll share his thoughts about the just-retired Jack Sock. That's coming up as Courtside continues.
One glimpse of its bold exterior says it all. An iconic luxury SUV has been reimagined. The all-electric Escalade IQ, brought to you by Cadillac, the official vehicle of the U.S. Open. Discover at Cadillac.com/IQ. Escalade IQ available late 2024.
With Faye Total Plain Greek Yogurt in your fridge, chances are you'll never skip breakfast again. Thick, creamy, delicious, the possibilities are endless. Top off a bowl of Faye with strawberries, granola, and honey, or add Faye to your favorite smoothie. You can feel good about the naturally delicious taste of Faye yogurt in every bite. Visit USA.FAGE for even more irresistible ideas.
Experience iconic Dubai with Emirates, home to soaring skyscrapers, adrenaline-fueled entertainment, and world-class shopping. Fly Emirates to Dubai and discover the unexpected. Fly Emirates. Fly better.
You're listening to Courtside, the U.S. Open podcast.
So very grateful right now to be sitting next to my good friend Mike Cation, who I get to talk to occasionally throughout the year via Zoom. Yeah. This is why I love being at the U.S. Open, because we get to go face-to-face. It's been great listening to the call of all these matches so far and getting to run into you as we walk around the grounds here.
I know, it's fun.
It's actually nice seeing people from time to time. It's a little bit better than Zoom, I think. Slightly.
It is slightly. Some people I'm like, no, and they keep you on Zoom.
Some people just have the Zoom without the camera, and I'm one of those people. Nobody needs to see this.
That's how I feel. That's why I'm in radio and not
exactly,
in TV.
Exactly.
Yeah. So day 5 has been a lot of fun.
Yep.
The storyline that I'm weaving here through the podcast today is it has been a great day for the American men.
Right.
And not such a great day for the American women. Now, in all full disclosure, hold on, what is the exact time? Okay, it's about 7:10. So Coco Gauff is about to start playing, and Taylor Fritz is about to start playing. Those are the last 2 Americans today. But Ben Shelton wins, looks very good doing it. Tommy Paul wins, looks very good doing it. Francis Tiafoe wins. So we got all these men doing well. Now, on the women's side, Taylor Townsend goes down, and that was tough because maybe not unexpected.
Right.
But I love her game, and I love her, and I was hoping that she could hang on for at least a couple more rounds. And Jen Brady, who looked so sharp in the first set against Caroline Wozniacki, she kind of lost the plot in the last 2 sets, and Caroline Wozniacki's playing terrific, and she's a great story. I'm so thrilled for her. Yeah. Obviously upset for Jen Brady. And then there was one more, Bernardo Pera also lost to Elena Ostapenko. So that's where we're at. Are we reading too much into the success of the men? Should we be overly excited? I trust your judgment on these things, Mike. What's your take?
Yeah, considering we're at day 5, third round, I would say no, we shouldn't be overly surprised, overwhelmed by the success. I mean, listen, Tommy, Ben, and Francis, all the seeded players, the higher ranked players. So theoretically, it's not surprising, right?
Yes.
I think it's just one of those situations where it's just notable that it's continuously happening. Francis into a 4th round again for I think the 4th straight year, something along those lines, and Tommy building off of the success that he had at the Australian Open at the beginning of the year. And remember, he did beat Ben Shelton in that quarterfinal in Melbourne at the beginning of the year. Now they're going to meet in the 4th round in 2 days. I think it's more so this is kind of what we've been waiting to be the regular thing at the U.S. Open for several years on the men's side specifically. We've known since about 2015, 2016 that Francis, Riley Opelka, who's injured, Tommy Paul, Taylor Fritz, Michael Moe, that group that all came up together, we knew that they were going to be the ones who were going to be kind of leading things at some point.
Right.
Now they're all 25, 26, 27, and very much in the prime of their careers. This is what we've expected for nearly 10 years, that this would be the case, that you have American men who are able to go 4th round and beyond. Ben Shelton, the young one, box office Ben, what he's able to do is
I'm calling him Guns.
Listen, he has a special relationship with a crowd.
Yes,
he
does.
Is dynamic with a crowd, and it is so much fun to watch. So he's the younger one to throw into that mix. But, I don't mean to sound nonplussed. It's just one of these things that in 2016, I was doing podcasts with people and just asking about what to expect. This is it.
This is what we've been waiting for.
Top 20, top 25 guys who are regularly in the second week of majors.
And ultimately, that's the point I'm happy to get to is when it's not like, oh my gosh, we're so happy we got this far.
Right.
We want to, and by the way, everybody's still hungry. The problem is that the top of the heap, the Alcaraz, the Medvedev, the some fellow named Djokovic.
Right.
It's just really tough to crack that top group. But I feel like the way that these guys are playing right now, they're playing without fear. They're playing with so much confidence. And while I don't anticipate anybody knocking off Carlos or Djokovic, things happen.
Listen,
things got a little weird in that Medvedev match last night where you're like, wait a minute, what's going on here?
Well, Daniil late nights at the Open. It's
particularly on Armstrong.
Oh my God, 2019 still. Dominic Kupfer match rings in my head. Tommy Paul beat Carlos Alcaraz a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
Right? I think you can. It's one of these situations where I don't know about you. I play poker a lot.
Okay.
It's if you consistently put yourself at the final table of a poker tournament, you're going to win one or two.
Exactly. It's putting yourself in this situation and then see how you perform in the moment.
Correct. And just trust that you're going to make the right decisions. You're going to be able to step forward and come through in one of those moments. And I think Taylor's going to be a guy that has the opportunity here in a semifinal or a Grand Slam final at some point soon. Francis Tiafoe, same thing. Tommy Paul, I don't know that I would have said it 4 or 5 years ago, but now he's a regular fourth-round, quarterfinal, semifinal potential kind of a guy at a Grand Slam. And Ben Shelton, I think, is somebody I think he has a real shot to win a Grand Slam in 5 to 7 years. He's the most raw out of all of them.
Yeah.
He has no idea what he's doing. I recorded for myself. I recorded a podcast with his dad this past weekend. And
really?
Yeah, and the question I asked him was, how far away is he from being, his full form?
Consistently dominant and getting to that level, right?
Just the day in, day out, like it's the peak level.
Right.
So he's like so far from that.
That's amazing.
Years from what is going to be his peak form.
Now, and by the way, give a quick plug for your podcast.
Behind the Racket podcast, and that episode is actually going to drop tomorrow.
There you go. It's a great listen. I can't wait to check that out. Now, I know you're calling the late matches, so you weren't here on the grounds. I don't know if you saw it. He banged out a serve 147 miles an hour.
That, yes.
I mean, you can't teach that. I mean, you can teach something about that, but that kind of power is going to bring great things.
Well, what's interesting is his dad said to me this past weekend, he said, Ben's really good at the fastball. he's got to learn the off speed. You know what I mean? And
right.
That's part of serving is it's not about the constant heat.
Yeah, it's about the placement.
It's about hitting your targets consistently.
Yeah.
Keeping things mixed up so that you've got the slider out wide, especially as a lefty, taking the slider out wide. Big kick for a lefty into the deuce court, and the fact that he's got that much high and so much violence on his serve that can make that ball on a high bouncing court kick to. That's why people think he's going to be very good on clay someday. Ben might be the one out of all of them that has the highest potential ceiling, to be perfectly honest. And that's a positive thing, considering right now you have 2 guys inside the top 10 as Americans and 3 inside the top 15.
Yes, and all playing. I mean, we're watching Taylor on court right now, and what we've seen from Francis and Tommy this year has been a lot of fun. Now, this comes at an interesting time for the Americans, and I talked a lot about this with Leif Shirish yesterday because he was on the call for John Isner's final singles match, and later he played doubles with Jack Sock, and I referenced this on the show, but I did not really get a chance to talk a lot about Jack. But I know what an influence John Isner had on this younger generation, and you're really starting to see the torch pass. But I haven't talked a lot about Jack Sock, and I know you've covered him for a long time, and just sort of your thoughts on his legacy and what he did to sort of help move the needle for the Americans.
Jack is going to be one that is he's an enigma. He won the first tournament I ever broadcast in Winnetka 2013. He won that tournament, and that was on his ascendancy when he first got into the top 100. And of course, before that, he had won the U.S. Open mixed doubles title. And an incredible doubles player. Got inside the top 10 on the singles side as well. I said on the air last night as I was talking about him with Jose Higueras that I think it's possible to say for Jack that he both overachieved and underachieved. I think for him to have gotten into the top 10 in singles based around one prolific stretch, winning the Masters year-end finals in Paris was 2017, got into the top 10, and an incredible performance for him. I don't know that I'll ever quite understand why he wasn't able to consistently achieve that, because the weapon that he had with his forehand and his hands are probably, in my opinion, of the players I've broadcast, top 5 weapons. I mean, that forehand was electric.
Yeah,
the
was.
Hands, people would kill for those hands, right? Like what he's able to do, it's one of those things that you just kind of look and just say, I wish he could have extended that for longer periods of time. And there are injuries that were mixed in.
Yep.
There were times where his focus just wasn't where it needed to be in terms of tennis, and that's totally fine.
It's life that happens. Yeah.
Exactly. We all have different goals and different thoughts of how we want to live our lives. But I think he's always going to be. It's always one of those people who I think I'm going to say I thought he was going to win a Grand Slam in singles.
Right.
I really thought he was going to consistently be a quarterfinalist or beyond at Wimbledon every single year.
Yeah.
And yet he had a very, very good career.
He did.
And I think there could have been more.
Yeah, and that's a completely fair statement. And there's always going to be questions for certain players that, like, you know, in any sport about, man, there was this potential, even if they're like overachieving, but there's still something in there.
Correct.
There's still something in there that we haven't tapped into. And sometimes that's a different voice. Sometimes it's a coach, something that's an internal sort of look at what am I doing and what do I want to do differently. And not every player gets there. And if they did, it would be easy. But, you know, that's the journey of a champion.
And I don't know that and, you know, Nick Kyrgios has talked about this a lot, and obviously he and Jack are very good friends. Nick doesn't love tennis.
No, I've heard him talk about that.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
And I kind of always have gotten that sense from Jack as well. He doesn't love it.
Right.
Totally fine, right? But it also means you're not going to always get the most in those situations, right? And I just read a quote the other day. It was from Francis Tiafoe of just if you want to be great at this sport, you have to love it and be obsessed with it.
Yes.
Get to the top of the level of this game, right? You have to be obsessed, get into every single detail. You and I, when we talked last week about Chris Eubanks, his attention to detail now is completely different than it was, say, a year ago at this time, and it's just that complete obsession with every single minute detail. And that wasn't what Jack wanted to do, and that's totally fine.
Had a wonderful career, but you're right. Everybody sort of looks at things differently, and some people say, "Look, that's not how I want to live my life." But the great ones, they're always obsessed. They're always a little bit crazy.
And Sterno, here's the thing I think about a lot nowadays as I'm getting older is if he's happy. And if he's content with what his life has turned out to be,
sure,
that's the only thing that matters. It doesn't matter if I say that I wish he would have
100%.
It's irrelevant.
100%.
Him being content, he's married, has a baby on the way within a couple of months. Going to play pickleball, which is so much less taxing on your body. He can come in for the weekend, just be a superstar because in pickleball, if he's not number one within about 2 months, I'm going to be disappointed. His skill set translates so well to pickleball that I think he's going to be fine, and I wish him well. I having broadcast a lot of challengers, watching him be unhappy in playing tennis, especially at a lower level. I'm hopeful for him that he finds the joy in pickleball that he wasn't able to always find here.
Peace and happiness is what I would wish for anybody.
Absolutely.
You know, and I would also say for what we saw from Jack, certainly from my cheap seats. Thanks for the memories.
Yeah,
some stellar play. And
like the shots. If you put together a shot reel of like best, most electric shot making, Jack Sock's top 10.
Yeah,
without question.
Yeah. No,
it's unbelievable what he was able to do.
Yeah,
and just the skill with his hands. I again, top 3 hands of all time in my opinion. Just what he was able to do.
High but worthy praise. Now, before I let you out of here, Mike, and thank you again for carving out time. What are your sort of the tournament's coming into focus now? We're starting to see sort of, okay, this is how we think things are progressing. What are your big takeaways? Are you still sort of, and we didn't talk beforehand about predictions, but I'm assuming you're still looking at Djokovic and Alcaraz and you know, some combo of Sabalenka and Swiatek, you know, maybe. How do you feel about Coco and Jess? Do you think they have a real shot?
I think that's the big question for me is Rybakina as well. I'm about
to
call her match in a little bit along with Novak as well on Ash. I think the women's field feels a little bit more open.
Yeah.
In terms of a big picture, I think the men, it still kind of revolves around those two, as you mentioned. Coco, I have said this before, and I'll say it again. If she's able to win this title, what it can mean for this sport.
You
know, kind of finally getting that next shift, you know, from Venus and Serena to the next American star of Coco Gauff. It's been, you know, kind of progressing towards this for the last several years. That would be absolutely massive if she's able to do it, especially here at the U.S. Open. Jess Pegula, I think she's just one of those people who's going to be in the second week of pretty much every Grand Slam.
Right.
She, you know, she's talked about it. It's been so hard for her to get to that next level, the semifinal, the final. So I always is going to be there. and
Yeah.
always is going to give herself a chance.
Yeah.
I think though
She does seem to be playing pretty well.
Yeah,
And she seems to
great.
be loose. Like, she doesn't seem to be caught up in the pressure of the moment.
Right.
Now, we're still in the first week, but I like I like her demeanor, and I like her
Agreed.
game right now.
But I think for me, if I'm thinking about the women's titles, it's Iga, it's Arena, it's Rybakina or Coco.
Yeah.
Those are the four that I think are the most in contention, the most highly likely favorites.
Yeah, I agree.
But I think for me, honestly, the biggest storyline, Sterno, is just the crowds. If I'm being honest, I mean, it's
been amazing, hasn't it?
It really is. It is every day. It's packed. Every day it's electric. The resale tickets are out of this world right now.
It's been amazing. I mean, there's the scene, and again, people know my broadcast booth is here in Ash, and you look out and it's packed, and people are going nuts, and it's amazing. And you walk around the grounds. I mean, it's like walking in a sardine can. I mean, there's just so many people here and so many smiles. People are having a blast. The weather has been perfect.
It's been great.
The crowds have been great. You're 100% right.
I think you hit on it. The weather being cool, makes a massive difference.
This doesn't feel like August, and we're not trying to jinx it.
No, I mean, I just walked over a little while ago, and right now as I walk over, it was 75 degrees for a mile and a half walk to get over to the site. I mean, it's been perfect, so it allows people to just kind of relax.
Yeah.
And this is gonna sound bad, but like if you have 2 honeydews and it's 110, you are in bad shape.
Yes.
But if you have 2 honeydews and it's only 75 degrees, you're still somewhat hydrated, right? So it's not over the top for the crowds. Like everybody's able to just fully enjoy themselves and be the best. And on top of it, the players are going to be much more comfortable to be able to play their best tennis. So, but yeah, I mean, we had a record crowd. What was that, Tuesday or Wednesday, of 73,000 or something along those lines. It's been fantastic. And again, you and I talked about it a couple of weeks ago on the podcast, but there's so much interest in tennis, and it feels like it's just on that verge of like crossing over to be a little bit more mainstream, just that little bit more.
Yeah.
And listen, it's about Coco. It's about Francis Tiafoe, even though he lost Christopher Eubanks.
Yeah, it is. Though there's excitement and a buzz around them. And even though he's not an American, the buzz around Carlos Alcaraz is, I mean, people that I know my whole life that aren't really tennis fans at all will like tug on my shoulder and be like, so what's this guy all about? I mean, he's just something special.
I was in Toronto, as you know, a couple of weeks ago for the Masters Series event up there, the National Bank Open, and the day before the tournament started, the stadium was packed. Free entrance on the weekend for qualifying weekend, and the stadium was packed for Carlos's practice.
That's amazing.
Because again, like, listen, tickets are cost money.
Yeah.
And if you have a family of 4, sometimes it's tough.
But
so if you can come in for free, and watch him practice, what an incredible opportunity. So that's why I think, opening the practices more and more, like we've done that here, obviously, for Fan Week and made that free, and it's fantastic,
been
right?
Massive success,
Right.
Fan Week has been. And by the way, I realized as I was saying we're talking about practice that I was sounding like Allen Iverson. We're talking about practice.
AI. I loved AI.
I know, he was great. Come on, listen, I'm a Washington guy, Georgetown, man, Hoya.
That would be one to actually, if we could get him here.
I would love to see AI here.
That would be amazing.
That would be fun. I'll make some phone calls.
Okay, you know people. You know a lot of people. I only know tennis people. I don't know basketball or football people. Like, I'm not Francis Tiafoe. I'm not able to just like randomly call John Wall and Bradley Beal and what do you have? He had Emmanuel Quickly from the Knicks here.
I really got to get Wilbon and Kornheiser up here. Then
great.
Things will happen.
Yeah, I have some talking to do with Wilbon. I think he's a Northwestern guy, right?
He is a Northwestern guy. Yeah, he's not happy about that right now. Not good days for Northwestern.
Rough time at Northwestern.
Yeah. But one of the best people I've ever known in my entire life, Michael Wilbon, and you were right there, Michael Cation.
Oh, bless your heart.
Thank you so much for taking time, man.
Always a pleasure.
Very few people know the tour and the players like Mike does, and that's why I love to sit and pick his brain and catch up with him. All right, that's going to do it for us today, so let me thank our sponsors, the USTA, for making the show possible, and let me also thank Mike, and technically Billy wasn't on the show with me, but I'm going to thank you anyways, Billy. Thanks for coming on, and thanks as well to you, of course, for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow for day 6 as we put a wrap on the 3rd round, so make your plans to join us. Until then, be well, and we'll see you tomorrow.